Hello, my name is Diane, and this week I read 4 books to get myself in the mood for Thanksgiving. This week is Thanksgiving in the United States, and I haven't had a traditional Thanksgiving in quite a few years, but this year we're making dinner and watching some movies, so to kind of get myself in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I picked out 4 books that I think capture some of the themes of Thanksgiving. 3 of them have food as a major part of the story. 1 of them takes place at the Thanksgiving Day parade, and all of them have family as some major part of the story. First book I read is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. It follows Amani, who is a single mother in high school who lives with her daughter and her abuela, and she's just trying to do the best she can for them and graduate, and she dreams of becoming a chef after she graduates, but she's not really sure how practical that is given her life. So Amani mostly shares custody with the father of her daughter. She grew up without a mother. She only sees her father once a year, and she works part-time after school, and she just doesn't have a lot of money to give herself the opportunities that she would otherwise have if she did have money or wasn't raising a daughter while going to high school. It covers a lot of topics that I don't think I've ever seen in young adult books, which is really interesting and good to see because, well, it's not the norm for most people to have a child when they're in high school. It's also not that uncommon for people to get pregnant when they're young and try and balance their life while they're still growing up and figuring things out. Amani gets into a culinary class and starts learning from chefs what it really takes to not just do things instinctually and however you feel like they should be done, but to do things methodically and following recipes, and she learns a lot more structure from this. She has the opportunity to travel abroad and study culinary arts in another country, which she has to figure out a way to fund that. And Amani just learns to respect all of the help that her abuela's given her, get closer to her own family and the other people around her, and let herself take the opportunities that she wants to have but doesn't feel like she can pursue. I really liked this. I think it covers a lot of things that I haven't really seen before. It's not really a new favorite for me. It is a little bit young for what I typically read, but I do think it was a good story, and I liked seeing Amani grow and sort of figure things out as the story unfolds. The next book I read is Brownies and Broomsticks by Bailey Cates. It's the first book in the Magical Bakery mystery series, and it follows our protagonist, Katie Lightfoot, who moves to Savannah to help her Aunt Lucy and Uncle Ben open a bakery. At the beginning of the story, they're dealing with a difficult customer who is soon afterwards found murdered outside of the bakery, and her Uncle Ben is suspected as being the murderer. Katie learns more about her Aunt Lucy and the friends that she keeps and the witchcraft that she practices. There's a little bit of magic, but not as much as I had expected. It's magic in a very real world kind of way, I guess. Not magical realism, but it talks about like real world witches and mentions of voodoo and things like that. So together, Katie and Lucy try and figure out who was really responsible for the murder so that they can clear Ben's name. Meanwhile, Katie's settling into her life in Savannah. She has 2 potential romantic interests enter her life. It's definitely a cozy mystery that doesn't feel like the stakes are too high. It's not a very intense story. I didn't find it super gripping, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. It's just a very cozy, charming, light read. Katie is learning more about her Aunt Lucy's world and the things that her parents didn't tell her about. It kind of just feels like she's living her day-to-day life and also solving a murder just while she's going about her business. So if you're interested in a lighter, cozy mystery series with lots of food, a little bit of romance, and some magic, this might be a good series to check out. There's currently, I believe, 10 books in the series, and I think it's still ongoing. So if those are things that you like reading about, this might be a good thing to check out because you've got plenty of books already available following the same character solving magical, cozy mysteries. The next book I read is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi. The story follows Harriet Lee, whose life has been very closely tied to gingerbread. Her mother developed a gingerbread recipe to keep her family fed when they were living in much more difficult times in a place called Druhistrana, which isn't believed by most people to be a real place. When Harriet's teenage daughter Perdita is found unconscious, she's believed to have made a suicide attempt. You eventually find out what actually happened to her, and Harriet tells her about her youth growing up in Druhistrana and all the strange and very surreal things that happened to her while she was there, as well as how her and her mother came to live in England. We learn a lot about the Lee family history, as well as the gingerbread that just keeps coming up throughout the story. It's a very surreal story to read. It's very strange and dreamlike. It's told in sort of a fairy tale sort of prose. It took a little bit of settling into to figure out what was really going on, what was real and what was not. It's a magical realism story, so there's a lot of strange things that make you go, is that actually happening? Or is that a metaphor for something? Or is it just a crazy hallucination that they're having because of all this weird gingerbread they keep eating? I liked this story. I feel like I didn't get everything out of it that was in it, though, because there's so many sort of strange, nuanced things. I did enjoy it. I really liked Helen Oyeyemi's writing, and I'm definitely interested in reading some of her other works. I feel like this is a story I would like to reread at some point in the future to see what else I can pull out of the story, little pieces that I missed the first time I read it. I'm not typically a big rereader though, so we'll see if that happens, if it happens anytime soon. And the fourth and final book I read is Manhunt by James Patterson and James O'Bourne. It is book 10 and a half in the Michael Bennett series. I didn't realize Michael Bennett was a long ongoing series, but this is a novella that happens between two of the main novels in the story. It follows Michael Bennett, who has 10 children. He's lost his wife to cancer, and on Thanksgiving, one of his children has been arrested, and he and his other children have decided they're going to go to the Thanksgiving Day parade like they always do and just try and have the best time they can. While they're at the parade, there's an attack. Michael Bennett is very close to the attack. He and his children are almost harmed in the process, and he makes it his mission to figure out who did it, find them, and catch them. It's very kind of that macho noir detective story. It's a little bit cheesy, a little bit gruff, but overall I just thought it was a good time. It read very kind of Die Hard feeling. This one guy who's gonna do whatever it takes to figure out who did this attack and stop them. It's a pretty short read, but there's a few, I guess, twists things that happen. I'm not really sure how much better this story would have been had I been familiar with Michael Bennett and the books that have happened in the series. There are 10 books, full-length novels at least, before this. Never mind whatever other novellas have already been released before this. I don't feel like I missed out on too much not having that background with the story or the characters. I felt like it was pretty well explained as things needed to be, who's who and what's what. But for the most part, it's a little more action-focused mystery. Like Brownies and Broomsticks is very cozy and light, and this one, Manhunt, was not. It wasn't a super heavy or dark story, but it definitely has a different tone. So those are the 4 books I read for Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving is this Thursday, so we're gonna make a little dinner and watch some movies, and that's pretty much my whole Thanksgiving tradition. Just some food and films. I know most other places already had their Thanksgiving that's celebrated at all. So if you're also celebrating Thanksgiving this week, happy Thanksgiving. And if you're not, I hope you have a great week. And I'll see you next time. Bye.